Well, welcome back to a wet, damp, foggy day. Now, if you live in the UK, you would be more than aware of the amount of rain that we've had continuously, what feels like weeks or even months. And the fact that I've just started recording and it's just started to rain. So I'll be back shortly. And this is what it's been like continuously every time I've tried to come down to do any jobs. It's just rained or the ground is so unbelievably wet. And at the moment, I'm trying to focus on our newer plot, which is mainly digging. Because of the amount of clay and heavy soil that we've actually got there, it actually floods quite easily, even though it's on an actual incline. And I've really had enough. So I'm going to be using some of our compost today to actually make one of the new beds. It's going to be used for squashes next year. So I was going to do certain sizes, and we keep coming backwards and forwards on how we're going to do it, because we're trying to save as much of our own home compost as possible for other things as well. But I think I just need to bite the bullet, because that area is really incredibly full of annual weed seeds. We were taking them out last year and we were hoeing them when we finally got at that plot, but it is incredibly hard work on that particular plot. Now, it's not incredibly great for growing either. A lot of our plants actually struggled to survive on that area. Now, the squash plants that we did grow on there was actually using our own compost and backfilling the holes as much as possible. And even the runner beans that did actually really well, we actually did fill the holes quite deeply with our own compost. So I need to bite the bullet. I need to use and stop hoarding compost, because I've still got 1.5 bays of the big bays that I could use. And then I've also got a smaller bay that's actually composting down now. Now, we've made a lot of compost this year, quite a few tons of compost. Now, we've used the one smaller bay already by just mulching the tops of our beds. Now, pretty much all that is done, apart from the purple sprouting broccoli and the sprout bed. But we've got more than enough to do that. You find that it's only a couple of barrows of compost that you need to top up your beds when you're doing no dig bed, and that's just yearly. So once you've got that first layer down, it's just that small amount of top up. So I've made a decision, after going backwards and forwards, I'm actually going to create one bed on that particular area. Now, it was going to be a small narrow trench, and I was going to bury a load of waste and maybe a bit of compost and actually do it that way, which is nothing wrong with doing that at all. And to be honest, I haven't looked at the compost properly yet, so it may not be fully at the stage where it's really good compost. But if I still lay it down, it will continuously carry on to rot anyway. So I won't decide how big this bed's going to be until I have a look at that compost. But it just keeps on raining. Now, I'm not afraid of the rain, but what I don't like is when you're carrying on working and you're continuously wet. Then you get cold and then your immune system drops down. And unfortunately, at the moment, everyone's got bugs, coughs and colds, and I'm trying to avoid it like the plague. Yay, it stopped, well, at least for a little bit anyway. So this is the area. Now, you remember that we had actual black plastic covering this whole area, and it's actually looking quite good. But I'm not going to be fooled. I know that it's absolutely full of annual seeds. And I know that this will grow really bad for next year. So I'm still going to put cardboard down. Now, you don't have to put cardboard down on your no-dig beds if you've got a nice clean area to do. But I'm kind of a little bit worried about how much compost I've actually got at the moment, how much I'm going to use. So if I can't do a thick enough layer to suppress the actual weed seeds already in this bed, I think the cardboard will kind of help that. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, one of the first jobs I've got to do is level it somewhat. It's very bumpy here, but the soil is incredibly hard at this time of year. So me being the lazy gardener at the moment, I'm kind of going to just make do and just flatten some of the bigger mounds. Now that was a professional job, don't you think? Alright, now we've been collecting cardboard for a little while again and storing it. This has just got a little bit wet from the last shower. But to be honest, the bigger the boxes you can get, the better. When you're trying to patchwork boxes like old crisp boxes, things like that, you end up with an awful lot of gaps and you also end up with a lot of movement. So I'm trying to go as big as possible. Now, on this bed, we've already got Hessian down on the one side where we were going to put the wood chip anyway. But I think I've got enough boxes to actually cover that area as well with the cardboard before I put any of the wood chip, because we're actually starting to run low on wood chip as well. And I'm hoping by February we're going to have a new few loads. But I'm just going to get this in, and I've actually got to move you guys because you're in the way. There you go, that's better. Okay, so you don't want any gaps on this cardboard, and you want to make sure that you're overlapping any amounts. Now I'm going to need a lot more cardboard. So just like magic, I'm going to do this. And there we have it. Well, for now anyway. Now, we've got enough cardboard to do all the way on this particular area, but I don't know what it is, but I cannot use all our compost at the moment on that. I've got pots to fill for next year, and that can actually end up being quite expensive, buying in compost. So I think I can get away with one bed and a path either side. So on this side will be another path, and then the next bed will start. Now originally we were doing these at 1.5, so 150 centimetres, 1.5 metres wide beds. I'm going to see how much compost I have and how much I get through to decide how wide I'm going to go. Now the one thing about gardening, you don't have to do it all in one go. Let's put you this way, because the sun is actually coming out. Now, as I was saying, you don't have to do all this all in one go. That's why I'm going to see how much I've got. I don't want to rush to do it. Now, our plans for this area next year are squashes and things like that anyway. So I could get away with quite a narrow bed and just have a couple of narrow beds going down here just for my squashes, and just let them sprawl over the whole area, which will help with weed control, and we don't have to worry about digging it because my shoes are absolutely caked in mud and I already feel 3 inches taller. So, and I don't want that. I don't want that. I know there's traditional gardeners out there that love that mud and everything else. I don't. Now, I don't mind getting my hands dirty. I actually love that. And my hands are always dirty when I get down here because I keep losing my gloves. But I want this area sorted, and I want it to have time to settle before I start planting for next year. These keep jingling and I keep thinking it's something else. So that's my cardboard area sorted. Let's just take a quick look. Now it's quite a large area, but not all that is going to be compost. Like I said, we're going to have this area up here as a path and a little bit of an area here as a path, and we'll just see how much compost we have. I'm going to mark off where my path's going to be, and then I'm going to get the compost. Now my path, I want between 40 and 60 centimetres. The good thing about wood chip paths, you can adjust them later on if you want to extend your beds. And that's what we've done this year, and it's been fantastic. We've just literally brushed away any paths that we no longer want or we want to shorten in width, and we've just put compost on top. No issues whatsoever. So let's mark out that path. One, two, so we're looking about there. There you go. Simple as that. You can do it with strings and pegs and things like that and really work out where you want your beds, given where your direction of your sun's going, whether it's a flooding area or anything like that. You really do need to plan ahead. But I'm ready for the compost. Now this is my compost pile. Now as you can see, I think it was 2 pallets across by 1 pallet deep. Now it still looks quite rough, so I actually don't know how much stuff I'm going to get out of this really. Now it doesn't have to be fine and crumbly and things like that. It can carry on breaking down on top of the soil anyway. But I don't want too many of the sticks and things. Now this was never going to break down in one season. This is far, far too big. But it is very soft. So this kind of thing will go back onto the compost pile to carry on decomposing. Now, as you can see, it's actually not that bad. It's a little less decomposed than what I would like. But I think we might be okay. Now what I can do, because we're going to be going about 3 inches or more deep anyway on the new bed, I'll probably top it up with a little bit of bagged compost, depending on the prices. Because as we all know, compost is incredibly expensive. Now one of the reasons why I want to do it now and not wait is so it can break down over winter. And I've already got weed seeds growing in that area. It's very wet, it's going to get very waterlogged, and it's only going to get worse by the time of the early spring next year. Last year we had a lot of water on that site. So I think I'm going to just bite the bullet and just throw it on. Now as you can see, it looks quite deep, but it's actually not, because it's really chunky. This will sink down to barely nothing. So I'm actually going to put more on at a time. But first off, I'm going to get my line, and then I'll go back over with a couple of more barrow loads of compost. Now if you're using bagged compost, you probably won't have to do this as much. But because this is chunky and not fully fluffy and fine and everything else, which would take a fair few months longer, this will actually be far too thin. So I'm going to carry on and finish this line. And there we have it. Now that was about, let's say about 800 litres to do that. Now it's not very wide, and in fact it's probably about 3 foot or so across, which eventually we want wider, but we're just taking our time. There is no rush to get your allotment how you want it straight away. Making small changes has big impact, and before you know it, within a couple of years, you'll have it exactly how you want it. So all I've got to do now is put my 1 lot of wood chip down for the path, and some wood chip here on this side for a path, just to keep it defined, and also to keep the cardboard from blowing away. Now the path's not going to cover the whole of this cardboard, So I'll have to put some slabs down on this side. Now I have got about 2/3 of that compost bay still left to go. So that's my no dig bed for today. Sometimes it's the little wins, getting just one job, no matter how small or big, just getting that one little job done actually makes you feel a whole lot better, especially when the weather is so atrocious at the moment that it really is hard to get down onto your plots and actually stay dry and warm. But again, winter is a great time to actually redevelop or develop your own allotment. So I'm going to start shoveling wood chip. And it's finally stopped raining again. I've managed to get the one lot of wood chip down on the far side, but I think I'm actually going to call it a day now. It's taking far too long to get anything done because it just keeps raining quite heavily. But it's a start. Now, again, these beds are not going to be wide for this year. Well, I don't think so, because plans again keep changing. And I'll be able to grow a few squash plants to trail over the rest of this side of the plot. Now, I'm probably going to put in another bed around about here, just on this side of the cardboard. I think I've got enough to do another one. And I need to do my runner bean bed. But I think that will be a different video, because I'm still planning and still changing my mind. But I think with this plot, apart from squashes and beans, I actually want to grow more perennials on this bed. Again, it's something that I've got to think about. Depending where we put the new polytunnel and where the greenhouse is actually going to go, will all dictate exactly what I do on this side. But anyway, that's enough for me today. I'm just glad I was able to get that one last job done. And hopefully, over the next few years, these beds just get better and better. What are you guys up to? Let me know in the comments below.